failed when they weren't elected to do so, enter us into all these agreements, pursue these phony NATO wars for imperialistic control, and on and on. Who could like anything they're doing? And yet those protesters are being treated as the enemy. Meanwhile, in the EU, there's been an exposed plot to scrap Britain. This, of course, has been ongoing, part of the larger European Union agenda. Senior Eurocrats are secretly plotting to create a super powerful EU president to realize their dream of abolishing Britain, the London Express can now reveal. A covert group of EU foreign ministers has drawn up plans for merging the jobs currently done by Herman Van Rompuy, President of the European Council, and Jose Manuel Barroso of the European Council. So to be a super EU president, also unelected over both of those bureaucrats, technocrats. They themselves are said to have had some fighting and squabbling, so they'll have to put a new super lord over them. And part of that is, of course, to subdue Britain, who's been really revolting against a lot of the EU platform, for better or for worse. It's a super state with unelected bureaucracy, and they're trying to bring Britain into that. They haven't yet accepted the euro. Even as the euro is collapsing, they'll pressure them to do that as well. And therefore, a number of British people affiliated with the European Parliament have spoken out against it. One, Euro MP Paul Nuttall of the UK Independence Party, the same one that Nigel Farage is in, said this is a truly ridiculous idea that must never be allowed to happen. It sounds as if they're trying to go back to the days of the Holy Roman Emperor, and others saying how my worry is the president will end up having the charisma of Van Rompuy and the economic management skills of Barroso. And we'll surely flesh out more information on that this year at Bilderberg as those figures or those closely related to them meet annually at that summit. That one is coming up in Chantilly, Virginia at May 31st. Alex Acru will be there. We hope you'll join him. Meanwhile, California has a medical pot crackdown in upscale Santa Barbara. What's going on here is they're cracking down on the medical marijuana supply chain, these different dispensaries that have certainly been controversial. But really, overall, this is a 10th Amendment issue. Californians, love them or hate them, have voted to okay these dispensaries. Their laws uphold these things, and yet you've got the feds leading the crackdowns on them, and they coerce a number of the local and state authorities to go along with their crackdowns. The moves on Santa Barbara storefronts and cultivation facilities mark the fourth such sweep in recent months in the 7-county California region that ranks as the largest federal law enforcement district in the nation. And on and on. And that's just to discourage overall states moving to allow for medical marijuana or for decriminalizing its use, and on and on. And how many people has marijuana killed? I believe the official statistics are still zero. Meanwhile, how many people have been killed just in police raids busting people who supposedly have marijuana or other drugs? I'm sure the number is far greater. Just yesterday, I know Alex covered this article, UCSD students' 5-day ordeal in a DEA jail sparks outrage. He was allegedly part of an ecstasy distribution ring and may have had to deal with other drugs and weapons, according to this article. He was forgotten by a DEA agent and left in a cell for 5 days, had to drink his own urine to survive. That's how lawless these prisons are, and this larger war on drugs, just showing some of the hypocrisy there. Meanwhile, a bit of upbeat news or downbeat, depending on how you look at it. It's nothing short of incredible what the Ron Paul campaign, and especially his grassroots supporters, have achieved despite the total media blackout on Ron Paul, despite the regurgitated meme that he can't win, won't win, despite all the disowning from inside the Republican Party. Still, activists are winning delegates on the local, state, and eventually the national level in many, many, many caucus states. And now they are clearly concerned about what's going to happen in Nevada. Very odd state for the Ron Paul vote, since he didn't get even 1% more votes than he got in 2008, even though he grew in popularity all across the country, even though Nevada is known for its libertarian base. It was known for overwhelmingly supporting Ron Paul. He didn't get even one more of the popular votes there. Now they're trying to block, as they did previously, the delegate action in favor of Ron Paul there. And they are saying that the entire delegate base from Nevada may be blocked from attending the national convention. I believe it is highly likely that any committee with jurisdiction over the matter would find improper any challenge to the election, selection, allocation, or binding of delegates, thus jeopardizing the seating of Nevada's entire delegation of the National Convention, said John R. Phillip Jr., the chief counsel for the RNC, in a letter obtained by the Las Vegas Sun, showing their intention to block the delegation in hopes that it would stop any kind of mass Ron Paul movement there. Meanwhile, the head of Ron Paul's campaign in Nevada, Carl Bunce, rebutted all this, saying the strategy is well within the rules. It's ridiculous. It's nothing more than a veiled threat, according to Bunce, who went on to say you can't come in seventh inning and say we're going to change the rules here. The Romney campaign advisor has come in and give you a loyalty test on who you support before you can go to bat. This is tyranny. If you can come in and change the rules whenever you want, that's not a republic, that's tyranny. Well, I got bad news for you, Blunt. The entire political party structure is part of the tyranny. We weren't supposed to have political parties in this country. They're not American. They work against our democratic traditions. They weaken our republic. We're not supposed to be loyal to these political parties. I think it's great what the Ron Paul delegates have achieved thus far in so many states. I hope they continue their efforts. They should not stop short of total chaos, of course, nonviolent, peaceful chaos at the Republican convention. There's nothing to back with Mitt Romney. He's just an Obama light. He pushed for the same health care system. He also signed the He also signed the anti-assault weapons bans things in Massachusetts and so many other platform positions. The Ron Paul people should voice their displeasure with the same old candidates, the same old tired, false opponents inside this party system, and back Ron Paul all the way. Our country's going down the tubes anyway. At that point, I will bring you to our quote of the day. It's from Dwight D. Eisenhower, when from his inaugural speech in 1953, Americans, indeed all freemen, remember that in the final choice, a soldier's pack is not so heavy a burden as a prisoner's chains. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Now, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back with not one, but two Hoppy Heidelberg interviews, the key juror for the grand jury in the Oklahoma City bombing investigation. He's been on before. We're going to play those for you now. Incredible, powerful information. Don't miss it. And don't forget to watch, but also share with your friends, family, and contact A Noble Lie, exposing the larger picture of the Oklahoma City bombing. And don't forget to support us at PrisonPlanet.tv. Your subscribership helps fund our operation, and you're getting the word out, helps us turn things around in this country. Thank you and good night. We'll be back again next week.
Have you been to InfoWarsShop.com lately? Express your inner patriot with these brand new InfoWars t-shirts. Say it loud with the InfoWars Bullhorn shirt, or educate the sheeple with the Bill of Rights shirt. Grope the public's mind with the TSA shirt. And with this shirt, you can let the dark side know of the Rebel Alliance's power. All available at InfoWarsShop.com.
Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at InfoWars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. Now, for the next hour, going to our guest, Hoppy Heidelberg, who, of course, was instrumental in, at first, really exposing that a cover-up was going on. And he is also joined there by one of the producers, Chris Emery, who we had on last week. And it's great to have Hoppy Heidelberg back with us. He's been on 4 or 5 times in the last 16 years that I've been on air. But and he's been through so much, you know, to tell the truth. But I want to get different people on: survivors, grand jurors, police officers, you know, mothers. We actually have a police officer who's actually been threatened. We may be able to get on, one of the ones they didn't kill, just to illustrate for the people that were there what really happened and how this was blamed on the anti-globalist movement and the states' rights movement. And then, of course, there's all the White House memos and things saying they sure need another one. It would sure be great. There was a new Oklahoma City. Very nasty how dumb they think we are to publicly talk about this. So he was the grand jury foreman, and he investigated evidence surrounding the Oklahoma City bombing. And then, of course, we have Mr. Emery with him as well joining us. Gentlemen, I could ask a lot of questions here, but I want to welcome you both back. And until we go to break in 10 minutes, instead of me just throwing out the first questions, you guys start talking about whatever you think is most important.
Alex, the first thing I want to do is make a correction there. I was not the foreman of the grand jury. If I had been, it would have been a completely different outcome.
Well, see, I'm going back from a decade plus, so some of my memory gets foggy. I apologize.
No problem. I just want to make that clear. That because they kept bringing that up. Well, you're not the foreman. You can't demand this and you can't demand that.
Maybe that's where I got it in my brain. But
yeah.
How long has it been since we talked? Something like 5, 6, 7 years?
Oh, at least, yeah. A long
okay, so
time
Hoppy was on the grand jury. Please continue.
Well, they handed us, when they called us back in December of '94 to come in, and then they excused the people who couldn't serve, and then they drew out of the hat the names of the people that were going to serve. And then they gave us a handbook called the Grand Juror's Handbook. And I took mine home, and I went through it first, highlighting it, and then I came back and underlined with red the most salient highlighted parts. And I understood that thing. I could have taken a quiz on it and made 100. I understood that book. And I didn't realize that they hadn't read the book and didn't understand it and were not going to go by it at all. So the first day that, of course, I'd been on the grand jury since January '95, but the other grand jury, there's 2 sitting grand juries all the time at Oklahoma City. There's one that serves from January to January and one from July to July. Well, the July jury wasn't going to have time to do this, so we caught it, and we started, I don't remember what it was, May or June, but anyway, the very first day that we started hearing evidence, I call it that, on the bombing, they told us that we couldn't question witnesses. Well, that's crazy. I mean, that's the whole purpose of a grand jury hearing like that, is for grand jurors to be able to question witnesses. So I showed them in the book that I could question witnesses and that I planned to. And finally, we came to a compromise. We just had to call it off for a while, and they came to a compromise, said, okay, you can question, and I was the only one that was allowed to question. You can question